Welcome to the Craft Service Table, the podcast where we talk about films, television, art, and entertainment from the perspective of the people who make them. I'm your host, Howard, and joining me today is First Assistant Director, aka, and I quote, Assistant Dream Crusher, as you say it, director, producer, script supervisor. She is the incredible kid, and she has the award to prove it. Some may say her hair is as spiky as a pineapple. Is Tati Navarrette. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. I'm honestly super excited to be here and so excited to be talking with you. I've been doing really good. Yeah. I have had quite the crazy year last year. Mm-hmm. I feel like 2024 was my year, and I made all my dreams come true last year.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yeah, and then we're starting this year with a bang, with a lot of stuff going on in the city too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I just hope this year is better than 2024.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Our friend had like a countdown thing on January 31st to like reset the year event. So that was pretty fun. So yeah, but thank you for being here. I know you've been on set and you're super busy too. And I want to start every conversation with what's your favorite craft service item? Ooh. What do you go for on set?
Oh my gosh. That's the question.
Yeah.
That's honestly like such an important question. Mm-hmm. I definitely say I gravitate to something sweet, something salty. So typically with the sweet, I'd say that whenever there's candy and chocolate, I'm always like, give me that.
Are you the Welch's type of person?
Oh, Welch's. Oh gosh, I love Welch's, but I feel like sometimes I've got to leave them there because if I start, I'll just eat them all, Right. So, oh gosh, I just love like the crafty table. You'll find me there all the time.
Yeah. The tricky thing about that is there's barely any like healthy craft service items sometimes, and it makes me, I would just rather starve because I know they're just all gonna kill me.
Yeah, you know what? I anytime I go to the craft table, I always feel like it's a really good reflection of a production, and like if there's like a lot of crafty, and then it's like, yeah, we know we've got a good budget where we care about our team and we care about the crew, and then when I go to the crafty table and it looks a little sad.
There's like 2 bananas there.
I think it's like a reflection of the production we're working on. a little bit, because of course, like I think I appreciate that there's snacks, because for me, snacks motivate me, and I always like to say that it's why I step onto set is the snacks.
What about breakfast? Sometimes if you have courtesy breakfast, that's also a really good reflection of they have some money.
Yeah. Yeah, we had I was on a production and it was super cool. I got to AD and they had a courtesy breakfast and they had a brunch and lunch.
And a brunch?
Yeah. And by the time I had breakfast and brunch, I was so full for lunch. I was like, just count me out, guys. Like, count me out.
That is so funny.
And it was a 3-day production. So I'm like, we're going to do this every day. Production?
That's a bit wild for a 3-day production.
Yeah. But it was super family oriented and like, wow, those producers, like nothing said, I care, then like, we're going to make sure everybody's fed, that everyone has like a midday snack and lunch. We're going to make sure our crew's taken care of. There was leftovers. Yeah. Hey, take these, especially because I think when you're working such like long hours, sometimes by the time you go home, it's like you forget to eat, dinner, or, if you're getting off at like 3 a.m, it's like you kind of forget about yourself. So I appreciate when producers can be super attentive to their crew in that way. And the fact that they were handing out leftovers, I think that was super cool.
It makes a difference, man. It makes a difference. It really does.
Yeah, totally.
Before we jump into our whole conversation with this episode, do you remember how we met?
That's a good question. I'm assuming through maybe a production?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
It was on set.
Which production?
Do you remember?
I actually don't.
That's very interesting.
Well, it's funny because like, I did, when I first started out, when I was in school, I did so many short films like that year. It's going to sound crazy, but I think I did like 30 short films. And so like
Right out
every
of
time
college,
I'd
huh?
go, every
Yeah.
time I'd show up on set, it's like, 20 to 40 new people that I'm just like, okay, hello, nice to meet you. And
Yeah.
I remember meeting you, but I don't remember meeting you.
Right.
The very first
It was on a
instance.
student film.
Okay.
I met you on this set, a movie called Grandma's Always Right. I do remember this.
Wait, I think I was doing
I think you were doing costume
costumes.
at the time.
Oh
Yes,
my
you were
gosh.
doing costume.
And that was my first time. That was Tony was directing.
Tony was directing. Shout out to Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
And I was a behind the scene photographer because I was
Oh.
just vibing with my friends. And then I saw you on the side and I went to talk to you and I was like, hey, so we struck a conversation like that. And then, yeah, and then you were in the costume department.
So random.
So random. You're not
It's-
doing that anymore.
No,
Why
not
not?
at all. I mean, it's actually really funny because my first like IMDb credits were like in costumes, and then I started ADing, and even when I had well AD'd like so many things, it was like still on IMDb costumes, Tati Navarrette costumes. But it, for me, I think I've always really loved fashion, and I've always really liked runways and film, and I thought, oh, this kind of like brings it all together. And at that time, I was really just experimenting and like trying a little bit of everything. So I thought, oh, well, why not try costumes? Maybe I'll really like it. And I tried it, and I did. I think I did costumes for maybe 4 productions, and I thought, oh, this is cool. But it wasn't like I didn't have that spark where I was
Right.
like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be, what I'm meant to be doing every single day, you know? I guess I'm not doing it anymore, but I don't know. Maybe, who knows? The future is still vast,
World's
right?
your oyster. You can
Yep.
still try a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought this up because I feel like ever since I met you, it seems like you always had a very clear goal of where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what that energy is. It's just like something about you that feel like you have this drive and you know exactly where you're heading.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's this little story that I wanted to share when Parvati, I don't know what the instance was, but when Parvati was meeting up with you or something.
Oh,
And then
okay.
you guys weren't that close at that time.
Yeah.
And then I remember her telling me that you gave her your card at the end of the conversation. And that struck
Really?
her. And she was like, she has a card. I'm like, dude, we are so fucked. She has a card.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Do you remember that?
No, I
You
don't.
don't? But
that's
did you have a
awesome.
card?
Oh, of course. Business cards since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had business cards, and I try to update them. I think I have like 4 versions since I was 15, which really isn't that many. I definitely need to update them, because
Do you
my
still hand
card's
them
like
out?
so old. Yeah, I actually, I don't have any with me right now, but I think like as a kid, I learned how to do graphic design because I was in this like in middle school, I was in this program called the Advanced Technology Magnet Program. And we were learning about like graphic design and computers. And at that time, I had never even touched a computer. So I was soaking in everything like a sponge. And, I remember thinking, well, why can't I turn this into a business, And so I started making business cards, and I called myself the Creative Vision. And I started passing out the business cards to everybody I knew. And I was like, well, here's my phone number and here's my email, and I can do graphic design. And so I started getting hired. I mean, I started working at 14 as a graphic designer.
No way.
Seriously. And then as I kept like learning new things and kind of finding my way as like director, then AD, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make more business cards, but for what I'm doing now.
Right.
And it's just so silly. But yeah, I have business cards, I guess, since forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That
They do
doesn't-
need to be updated though.
Right. I mean, that doesn't work any differently than just like, oh, here's my email.
You know
Do you think
what?
people like remember you more because of that?
Sometimes I think about it because like I feel like in this day and age, like back then having a business card, I think because I didn't have like social media or anything like that, it felt super tangible, like to give somebody, hey, here's this physical thing that I can give you that you can remember me by.
Right.
But yeah, I think now it's kind of like, oh, just like here's my Instagram, and honestly, that's how I get a lot of the jobs nowadays, is like just through Instagram DMs, which sounds really silly, but it's true. You know, I've gotten opportunities to fly across the country just through Instagram DMs, you know? And yeah, I think like having a business card is really cool and something that's super tangible. But I think with technology today, I don't know. I think some people, it rubs them as like, ooh, this person's kind of professional, you know, or some people, they see it and they go, oh, that's cool. And they throw it in the wallet and never remember,
It just
you
stays
know,
there
that
for
it's
years.
there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So how was your relationship with film in particular, literally growing up? You said you started as like a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And then you eventually got into film school to Long Beach because of, I mean, you got into this scholarship and you got into this incredible, your dream school, but you had to turn it down for a lot of reason. But I was just really curious about what is your relationship with film and art? How did you find it growing up? And kind of what made you realize that this is the thing for you?
Yeah. It became my spark. I think as a kid, you know, my parents, they're the kind of parents, and I love them for this, especially now, where they didn't, you know, want me playing like video games or watching too much TV or like on electronics too much. They were like, you come home from school, you finish your homework, and go outside, go play, go create, go make things. And I remember I got my hands on, you know, my family's video camera, and I started pretending like I was making YouTube videos because that was like the thing at the time. Obviously never uploaded them anywhere. But I was like, wow, how fun is it that I can create something and then play it back and show somebody and make someone smile.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, something so like magical about that. And I remember watching Tom Cruise movies, so like the Mission Impossibles and stuff, with like my dad, and like Top Gun, and I remember watching all those like stunt sequences and thinking to myself, that looks so cool. And on VHS tapes, they used to have like the behind the scenes features. And a lot of the times I wouldn't even play the movie. I would just go to the behind the scenes features, and I'd always watch like everybody on set, like what they were doing. And I always found something about the way that everybody moves on set so magical. And so I just really immediately got attracted to, oh, wow, like I think I want to do this. And basically, to fast forward a bit, once I went to middle school, I ended up going into their like STEM program. I really loved robotics. I did robotics for 8 years.
Oh my God.
And then when I went to high school, I did 4 years of mechanical engineering. And I don't know, I was just always that nerdy kid. I just loved science, and I just love logic, you know, things that just made sense. But I never lost that like little like thing in the back of my head that's like, ooh, movies, like something about it so magical. And I made my first short film. It was my freshman year of high school, and I submitted it to this film festival called the Cherry Hill Film Festival. And I didn't really think anything of it. I mean, it was the first film I'd ever made, edited, directed. I did like everything on it, you know, and it won. And it was crazy
When
because
I heard colors.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. And it was just so wild to me to like see my work on a big screen. But I think more than just it being on a big screen is like looking around and like hearing people react to the movie. And I'll never forget, there's this woman who sat behind me, and I thank her because I think she's the reason I got into film in the first place. Oh man. But there's this moment in the film where it changes from black and white to color. And when that moment happened, the woman behind me went, wow. Oh. And oh my gosh,
such a compliment.
Wow, just like, it stuck with me. And I thought, wow, you know, my projects and the work that I put out into the world can make such a profound impact on people, you know? And the whole point of that film was just to be kind to one another. And, you know, from there, I was like, what other messages can I put out into the world that are going to make people smile or feel things? And yeah, I just haven't stopped from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I feel like what you do now is almost like a combination of that creative side of you and also that STEM part of you
Totally. Just
combined.
combined.
Yeah. And then somehow you got into ADing, which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy to me because I don't think I've met a lot of people who said that they wanted to do AD because it's such an insane freaking job. I don't know. I just don't understand how you guys operate on a daily basis. It's just there must be so much going on
Yeah.
inside you guys' head. So why AD?
Yeah, no, that isn't that the question. It's funny because like I think when I first started out, people were like, "You like to do this? Like you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. Like I love it." And people are like, "Oh, well, that's good to know because we need more people like you, you know?" Because everybody I think wants to direct. Everybody wants to be a DP, and or like an actress or an actor. And I don't know, something about like how logical and how fast you have to think. Being an AD is such a challenge, and I've always loved challenges. Challenges excite me. They scare me too. But there's something about like the magic of that combination that's
Right.
like, ooh, I want to do that. The first time I had ever heard of what an AD was when I was in film school, I thought I wanted to be a director because I thought, oh, you know, making impacts on people is what I want to do. And I want to put good into the world by directing.
Right.
And oh no, I was wrong.
Really?
I started learning about what an AD did. And I was like, wow, you know, something about this is so interesting because it's basically you're the one who's figuring out, okay, how are we going to make the magic happen, you know? And then what are the steps we're going to do to get there? So for me, I think I just like learned about it, what it was, and was like, I got to do that. And so I AD'd on my very first project and I sucked.
Yeah.
Like I think of like every mistake you can make and I made them.
Oh yeah.
We didn't make the day. Everybody was upset. I was just sitting there crying. And I was like, oh man.
Was it a student set?
It was a student set. And because I didn't really know what I was doing, you know, in our school, there's not like a AD program or anything like that. And man, I just was like, I want to try that again. You know, I think I could be so good at this thing, you know? And so I tried again on another project and I still sucked, but I wasn't as bad.
Right.
And then I tried again. And man, that was learning how to be an AD was such a learning curve. It was so hard. It was the most challenging thing I had ever done. And that's why I kept chasing it, you know? And I think I was driven by, man, this is so challenging. I want to be so good at this. And pretty much a passion grew inside of me because when we would make the day and I'd look at the director and the director would go, wow, like I'm so proud of like what we just did. For me, that just filled me up like nothing else. And
because you made the day.
Yeah, you
made
know,
it, yeah.
and everybody was safe and things went smooth and, you know, happy crew always makes me happy. And I think at the end of the day, it's like, I just grew this like passion because it combines all the things I've always loved, you know, since I was a kid, is the logic and like almost the sciencey, like problem solving side and also the creative side. And it's melding both worlds together and having to be a leader. So yeah,
that's great. I mean, it sounds a lot like kind of my experience too, coming up in film school and then kind of didn't know what I wanted to do other than writing and directing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I eventually found script supervising. I fucking sucked first couple times too. And I was like,
hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like it's the same thing with ADs, like an impossible job.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And I feel like a lot of people look at script supervising too and feel like that's an impossible job.
Yeah.
But I gotten better. I feel like there's something there that made me want to pursue it.
Totally.
And then eventually I, you know, took it seriously, gotten a lot better, and that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When you look back on your life and like maybe just the way you were raised and like your childhood, do you see how you may have like ended up as a script supervisor? Like, do you see the parallel there?
No, I don't
Really?
think so. I
Oh,
don't think so.
wow.
Because I feel like I'm not a particularly organized person. I'm not a particularly very detail-oriented person.
Yeah.
But something about script supervising that just kind of turned that thing on. And it's just like, I'm super detail-oriented all of a sudden. I'm super organized all of a sudden. I
Yeah.
know exactly what to look for. I don't know.
Oh, that's
It's
so
kind of weird.
interesting.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's funny because like I'm like surprised to hear that because some of the script supervisors like I've worked with, or I'd say most of the script supervisors are like, yeah, I just always have been, fill in the blank, detail oriented, or like just really on it and like can just hone in on all these little things. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear, but it's cool that you found that you have basically a little superpower that you didn't know about, because I guess what you're trying to say is like, it's kind of opposite to the way you've been, right?
Yeah.
And then you've been able to hone it in on something. So
I mean, do you feel the same way about ADing, or do you feel like it's just always meant to be?
I think it's going to sound interesting, but I feel like I was born to be an AD. So my parents actually are, I almost want to say, a perfect combination together of who I became, because my dad is an operations manager. So he's always handling like logistics and stuff like that. And my mom, she is the creative director for the Long Beach Community Theater.
Oh, wow.
So you're taking truly, as I've grown up, my dad, logistics, and my mom, director,
Right.
combining them together, boom.
AD.
And then there's me.
Born Tati.
Yeah. And so I feel like I've always kind of had a calling for that. I think as a kid too, I had a really strong moral compass of like, what's right, what's wrong, being a rule follower. And so I think I naturally kind of fell into it. But I think truly at the end of the day, I like it because it's so challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the more I've done it, it's become less challenging. And it's just every time that I get to be an AD on set, I spring out of bed. I'm like, yes, every day I get to step on a set and be like, I am the AD. I feel like I'm living my dream, So I feel very grateful for that.
I mean, were there days where you're working, you just feel like, dude, this is impossible. I can't do it. I'm not made for it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've had just recently a project I did, I'm making a YouTube channel. Woo!
Ooh,
Really
yes.
exciting.
Is that are you announcing it on this podcast?
Yes.
Yes, we got the scoop, guys.
I know. But I'm making this YouTube channel. It's called Totally Tati. And I am putting out this vlog, and it's actually from this production where basically we were filming about 14 to 15 pages per day. And the odds were just quite literally just stacked against us, because the amount of content we had to produce in the period of time that we had to film it, it just felt like the most impossible puzzle. And like you'd probably see in the video, like I wake up one morning and my hair's like crazy and I just look like a hot mess. And I'm just like, yep, another day, and it's fun. I think there are days where I'm just tired and I just, got off a set where, the drive was an hour and a half and I just worked 12 hours and, sometimes it's like 13 hours because I like to be there early and be the last one to leave. And then drive an hour and a half home. And I think it definitely takes a toll on you, of course. But I think at the end of the day, it's something that I'm so eager about. And I also know that every set kind of has a time limit on it, because let's say, you're booked for a production and it's 12 days or 20 days. Eventually that production's going to end. So I always try to put my best foot forward. Each one I get, sometimes you're just there for one day and you just got to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
I've worked with people who have just been doing this thing forever, and that is like so intimidating. And I think those are the sets where I get a little like anxious, I'd say. And what I try to do is turn anxiousness to excitement, because I feel like those are such similar emotions. But if you can just harness the upper side of like anxiousness, it's really, you can turn it into excitement and passion. I think a big thing is when I'm having really, really hard days on set is I'm just honest, you know? I think there's something so human about just being authentically yourself.
Yeah.
And if I had a horrible night of sleep, I'll go to the producers and go, hey, you know, I'm going to be honest, I had a bad night of sleep. So, you know, I might need a little extra support today, you know, or, you know, maybe I'm feeling like a little nervous, and, you know, depending on who you're close with, maybe you're just honest. Like, I've had many conversations with, you know, whether it's my second AD or a key PA, and like, yeah, you know, I'm just feeling, you know, I'm feeling a little off today. And I, you know, I want to put my best foot forward, but today I'm just feeling just a little down, you know, or, and that's okay, because everybody has those days, you know,
we all
and
do.
yeah. And I think like as an AD, I'm like, I appreciate when someone comes up and says, hey, I want to let you know this is what I'm going through right now, and that's why I was late, or this is what's happening right now in my life, and that's why I'm like messing up my lines so much, or, you know, honesty, I think, is always the best. So I just, you know, I appreciate people when they can just be authentically themselves and still show up, you know. So I think I try to do the same, you know.
For sure. I think it makes everyone's job harder when you walk on set and there's like not easy to work with people.
Yeah.
You know, like people who are just, it's hard to get along with, or people are just dicks, and they'll be like, okay,
Oh
like
my gosh, yeah.
we're just all here to work. Like, why not just make a chill ass set and have a good time, you know? I know it's
definitely.
stressful.
Yeah.
Everyone is freaking stressed.
Yeah.
But when you said that you try to turn anxiety or nervousness and into excitement, I find it really interesting, because that's kind of something that I've been trying to
Really?
practice this recent past couple months.
Yeah.
I've heard of the guy, the pommel horse guy
Okay.
in the Olympics. Do you know him?
No.
Stephen, I forgot his last name. His last name
Does
was
he
really
wear
hard.
glasses?
Yes.
I do
The
know
Olympics
him.
pommel horse guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was doing an interview at Mythical. And then he talked about how he turned like anxiety into excitement, because they are physically the same body reaction of like your heart start pumping, you start
Totally.
sweating.
Yep.
But if you can somehow like switch that mindset to, oh, I'm just excited
Yeah.
to be here,
Yeah.
then it makes stuff easier.
Yeah.
So I'm find that super interesting, and I just wanted to practice that.
Yeah. I have kind of a ongoing, I don't know if it's a joke, but just a thing that I do when things aren't going my way on set, or I just had a difficult conversation with someone, or I need to have a difficult conversation with someone, or, you know, where I'm just starting, I can feel that anxiety start to build. I jump. And it sounds
jump.
really weird.
Release the energy.
But yeah, like I call it my reset. I said, like, you know, I can be, I'll typically I'll have this like conversation with, I have a good friend who's a producer, and I'll be talking to him. I'm like, oh yeah. And like this happened, and then this happened, and it just, the day didn't start out right. And I can feel myself kind of going into that like negative complex, right? To prevent that entirely, I like to just go, I kind of catch myself, of course. And then I just do like a little jump, and I say, you know what? I'm going to reset. Boom. Start fresh.
Wow.
New day. Let's do it. You know? And like, I think it's really good to do that, because if you hold on to something like too long, it kind of starts to build, and then, you know, it'll take root. If you do that a lot when you're on set, then it can be really a problem, because then it'll be hard to go to set, you know? Yeah.
So we talked about AD for a while. Enlighten me. What does an AD do? So what does AD stand for, and what do they do? What does your job entail?
Yeah.
And you know, what's your daily routine like when you're working on set every day?
Yeah. So AD stands for Assistant Director. And the assistant director team is made up of quite a few people. There's the first AD, who's the one that you are hearing them narrate pretty much everything that's going on set. They're calling the shots. They're making the moves. And then there's the second AD, who is definitely the right hand to the first AD. So anything that the first AD might need, the second AD is helping them, get things going. So whether it's getting background talent, in position, or making sure cast is ready to go, and things like that. And then there's like the key PA, there's a second key PA, and then all the PAs. Which basically this whole team is just made up to just help make things move,
right?
Honestly, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, because at the end of the day, what an AD is doing is communicating. Yeah. And communication is so vital to that role, because without communication, then you have a lost crew,
right?
But I'd say day to day, there's when I typically am hired on by a producer or a director that has recommended me to a producer. And typically, I can be brought on to a production anywhere from a month to a week to the day before production, which, by the way, the day before that's horrible.
That's horrible.
Don't do that to your AD,
that's
but
horrible.
it happens.
Don't do that to anyone.
I know. Oh gosh, seriously. But and typically with pre-production, I get a script and I break it down and break it down into every little detail, from there's a ring in this scene to we need 20 elephants in this scene. To there's this huge stunt where this person's going to catch on fire, and then from there, I basically take all of that information and put it into a one-liner. And then I take the one-liner and I turn that into a schedule, so that we can basically take on each day in the most efficient way possible that works for everybody in the most efficient way possible.
Right.
And let's say we have 8 days to do a production, then it's like, okay, we have 8 days and we have one location for one day and 2 locations for maybe 3 days. I need to make sure that we schedule those scenes at the right time, the right place, make sure we have the right people for that, the right props, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's truly a rabbit hole. You could just keep going down.
I know, like that sounds like a very generalized, like this is like the summation of what an AD does. But when you get into the nitty gritty, it's like you're almost like micromanaging every single thing that happens on set.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I like to break it down really simple. So like from the moment I step onto set, I always like to be early, because as the AD, you really want to kind of get a good scope of like, okay, who's here? Are we ready to go? Is there anything that, we're missing, or something happened with locations or something like that? And then from there, people tend to like unpack, and you have that like first hour, you got to start with that safety meeting. But from there, you kind of fall into a rhythm. So I'd say the big key thing for being an AD is block, light, rehearse, and shoot. And that is the rhythm and the heartbeat of a set, because to start, you got to block. And it's really hard, because I think that's an important step that people forget, or they block once the cameras and lights are up. And if people are rushing, you kind of forget that step. And then you realize, oh, we're missing this key prop, or, oh, the lights actually need to be on this side, or, oh, we realize, fill in the blank, right? And then we light, and then we rehearse, and same thing. After that, we like kind of start to tweak. And then we shoot it and make sure it's as good as it can be, and make sure everybody's happy with it. And then from shot to shot and setup to setup, you just keep doing the same thing. And it's a pattern, truly, at the end of the day. And it's all about just keeping the pacing consistent and keeping everybody on their feet, because especially after lunch, I think everyone kind of starts to slow down.
We have a slump.
And I mean, even me too, right? Like, we have a good lunch. If I just ate like Chipotle burrito, that's, by the way, my favorite on set. If there's Chipotle, oh my gosh. But I eat that whole burrito and I just, I am weighed down. And, I have to kind of, remind myself, okay, no, you got to keep your head in the game, like you still have 6 more hours, right? Or less than, because after lunch. but it's like, oh, we gotta get it done, right? So
I mean, so much of like what AD does is like keeping, as you said, keep everyone moving and make sure we make the day.
Yeah.
Scheduling, make sure we're on schedule and we're not like taking too much time on this one thing.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious from an AD perspective, what are some of the elements that is going through your head when you're scheduling how we shoot, how like the order of the shooting?
Yeah, totally. I think the first key thing that I'm thinking about is once I have the script and I'm given, okay, we have this location, I look at all the scenes with that location. And from there, I'm thinking, okay, how high is the page count at that location? Because let's say it's, we have 6 scenes and total that compiles to a 14 page count of scenes. For me, I think, okay, 14 pages, comfortably that would be split into 2 days, right? So like 7 pages on one day, 7 pages on the next. And then kind of most of the time it works out to like not a perfect split because, some scenes are like a little longer than others, but I know that that's about comfortable, a comfortable pace for the crew. And then sometimes they say, well, we only have that location for one day and we have 14 pages we need to film.
Yeah.
And, in my head, I'm like, oh, crap. But I'm also like, okay.
Yeah.
And so then I look at what's in those scenes and what are the hurdles that we might face because if there's a elaborate stunt sequence in those 14 pages, in my head, we can block, light, rehearse, shoot, and keep the pace going, and we can go as fast as we can, as best we can. But at the end of the day, it's like, ooh, we need to like not make a single mistake. I always like to picture it as always getting the gold medal at the end of the day and having a perfect, always winning the gold medal.
Right.
And that can be tricky. It can, because things happen. Nothing's perfect, right?
Right.
So,
I mean, stuff. Okay, so here's a little challenge that I want to do.
Ooh,
all right,
okay.
so you're on let's say 10 page. I would say, what's a comfortable page count for you for a day? 7 page?
Oh my gosh, the lower the better.
You're right, the lower the better. No, actually, the lower the scarier, because that
Really?
means like you're spending 12 hours on something like 2/8 of a page. That's scary.
Yeah. No, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I would say I think the lowest page count I've done was 3 pages, and it was really complex. Like the scene we were shooting, we had a steady cam and we were doing SFX and VFX with a steady cam. I mean, it was just the craziest thing, plus a stunt. And I'm like, okay, so we're not getting this shot up till later in the day, are we?
All right, so let's say you're over there doing that.
Yeah.
And then I'm the director. And I'd be like, yo, Tati, I have an idea.
Okay.
I want to add 6 shots for the day.
6 shots.
Yeah. And then we're already like, behind schedule.
Ooh.
How do you deal with that?
Okay.
And I say, I have to get it.
You need those 6 shots.
I have to.
Yeah.
Because I say so.
Right. No, I mean, hey, there you go. You're the director, right?
Right. So what do you say?
Okay.
I would just say the sentiment behind it is just to like, we're way over behind schedule.
Yeah.
And they want to add a lot of shots. What the hell do you even do by that point?
Most of the time when I have a director who, I wouldn't say blindside. I don't think that's the right word, because really you're working as a team. But if we're in pre-production, we break it down and we're looking at like a shot list together and we're going, okay, well, we need these many shots. And he's like, hey, we're throwing this shot list out the window. We're going to do this. And it's way more than anticipated. I typically go, okay. And then I go, we have an hour 30 till we have to be out of this scene.
Yeah.
Have to.
Right.
Or we don't make the day, pretty much. And typically when this conversation happens, I try to approach the director, but most of the time I like to get the producer involved as well, because a lot of it has to do with the producer as well, because maybe the producer's like, oh yeah, no, it's fine to go into overtime, which has happened before, which sounds weird, but
they have the money for it, I guess.
If they have the money for it, maybe they're like, oh yeah, I really want that, because they trust the director's vision that much. But most of the time, the producer is going to be like, oh yeah, no, we can't do that. Right. Right. And so most of the time you just have to get the whole team rallied up to just push forward. And I think it's one of those things where sometimes you get it and most of the time you don't quite get it.
Right.
But, when you're dealing with like low budget and somebody who wants, the moon and all the stars, it's like you might not get it all the way, but you can get close. You can
cheat a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is in moments where we're running behind and we're trying to add things, and I know, okay, well, we have to be done at 8 o'clock sharp, because if we don't finish by 8, then the location owner's gonna be pissed that we're not out of here or whatever, right? To me, it's like, those are the moments that are like make or break, right? Yeah. And I feel like communication is of the most, essential in those moments. And so just getting the team on the same page, I think that's what it is. I like to tell people we have 6 more setups to make this day. And I say, we have an hour 30, 6 setups. We've got this in the bag. Let's get it done, and let's get it done fast. Yeah. And I think when everybody hears, oh, we have 6 more setups, awesome, let's do it. Because everyone wants to go home. Right. After 12 hours, it's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I got to pack up the van, Yeah. And you still got to drive home, and everyone's so tired. And so I think if you can put it in a way where the crew can get behind and rally, I think that's always the way to do it.
I find it really funny from that story, because on the flip side, this conversation almost never happened with the first AD present. So it is really funny that on the flip side of that, we always joke about, oh, don't rush it. Mm-hmm. Don't be efficient, because if you get efficient, they're gonna add more work.
Oh gosh.
There are experiences where we're so ahead, we're like a couple hours ahead.
Oh wow.
It's like, oh, we're done, right?
Yeah.
Nope. Let's add another 2 scenes and then use the whole 12 hour, which makes sense. Completely makes sense from production standpoint, but just from like a crew standpoint, man, it's like, man, I want to go home so bad.
Totally. I've worked on sets where I've worked with ADs where they push, and the crew rallies and the crew's on it, and we get hours ahead of schedule. And at that point, your crew is exhausted. Yep. And it's like, for what, and maybe that's a controversial opinion, right? But like, to me, I think everybody who goes into film is like kind of taking a risk going into film, but they go into it because they're so passionate about it. And that's why for me, I always try to push for really positive set atmosphere and set environments. And I kind of like to talk to everybody and learn everybody's name and see how everyone's doing, because not everybody's going to always have a good day, Right. And people get tired. And I think you just have to be respectful of people's boundaries, because I think ADs that push so hard where you get hours ahead of schedule for no reason, it's like, well, what about that? How does the director feel? Because most of the time it's like, what shot did we say no to? What thing did we say no to end up hours ahead? Either that, or they just didn't schedule it in a way that was effective, because I think that shouldn't really happen. I think you want to make the most of your day. I always like, when I interview, I always tell people that I want to maximize the day, and whatever the director wants to make happen, I do too. And I want to make it happen in the most efficient way. Yeah. But I'll also be realistic. I want to maximize the day, but do it realistically.
I feel like if you rush people too much to a point where it's kind of overworking people, you see it in the work too.
You'll lose people for sure.
You'll lose people, and also people the work wouldn't be as good.
Yeah.
So how does set safety and safety protocols come into the picture.
Yeah, I mean, safety is like truly at the end of the day one of the, I mean, and actually I shouldn't say one of the, it is the most important thing that an AD is in charge of. No shot is worth putting a crew member at risk, you know?
Well, Tati, pain is temporary, but movies are forever.
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh. No, I mean, for me, I think I've been on so many sets where I think people, they're so committed to the project and they're so like willing to say yes to anything. Mm-hmm. It gets sketchy where it's like, oh, okay, we're saying yes to putting your body all the way out the window with a heavy camera on a freeway, right? It's like that kind of thing. And like, to me, I think having an AD who can just be the person who goes, hey, let's not do that.
Right.
Is so important. And it's just so important to have somebody who's looking out for that. I've been really grateful because this past year I've been able to be on so many productions where there's stunts. Mm-hmm. And I even got to mentor with American Film Institute, which was really cool, as a first AD mentor. And there was a stunt motorcycle, and we also had prop weapons. And yeah, it was really exciting because for me, I've always loved stunts. But the thing is, the protocols around gun safety and moving vehicle safety is something that people maybe aren't as aware of, because maybe I'm seeing it all the time on set, and maybe this is someone's first time on set seeing a gun, and it's like, is it real? Is it, what does it have prop bullets in it? And so I think it's super important to always go through the safety protocols of like having the meeting where it's like we have a cold weapon on set, and that's what we like to call them. And we talk about if it's, where we got the weapon from, whether it's a prop house or, if it has if it's fully made out of plastic. We go into as much detail. And then at the very end, we say, if anybody would like to come look at this and see for yourself that this is, it has no bullets or has no ability to hold bullets. Yeah. I think that's so important because that's what prevents accidents. And it also just is so comforting, I think, for people to know that, to have an AD they can trust and they know that is looking out for them for safety.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's the saying? AD is like a safety. What's the saying?
There's a saying?
Yeah.
AD is the safety
safety officer. That's it.
Oh, safety.
It is a safety officer of the set too.
Nice. I thought there was like a jingle you're about to pull out. I'm like, AD is the safety something. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. No, yeah, safety officer, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, on top of everything else.
Yeah.
On top of like the
things.
Yeah, everything that AD is responsible for, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, any war stories? This is a reoccurring segment that we ask our guests some of the memorable and horrific moments that they had on set or where they're working.
Oh, yeah, I've got one.
Do tell.
Yes, I feel like as an AD, I've seen things. And I think for me, I try not to put it out there too much, because for me, I'm the one who is really looking out for safety, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, of course, but yeah, I mean, I've seen things and, where I waved the flag and went, no, you can't do that. And then they're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And I went, okay, well, I'm not a part of this production anymore then, So I'll give you an example of one. I was working on this music video, which was super, super rad. There was a bunch of stunts, and there was a G&E / camera crew that was the most unsafe, untrained crew I've ever, they blocked every doorway, every window. Really? They lit a fire on set and then immediately put it out with the extinguisher. I was so shocked.
What is bro doing?
Exactly. And I mean, I was I was shocked. And I mean, I literally was like, no, you cannot. And then they just lit the paper on fire. I'm like, oh my God.
But why? How?
It was just crazy. I don't know. I don't know why. And that's why that's a question that I would like to know too. But they were already sketchy, right? I mean, I had worked with them for 2 days, and it was the second day, and it was just a 2-day production. But it was the second day, and we were in our final 2 hours. We were nearing like our last and like final shots, and the DP's like, I have this idea. And he goes, I've done it before. And me and my second AD looked at each other like,
okay.
because we had already discussed before that they clearly don't have any capacity for safety protocols or boundaries or procedures, you know? And it just, they just screamed unprofessional, you know?
Wow.
And so I was like, oh no, this idea can't be good. He goes, okay, well, give me a second. I'm going to build it and then I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, he's going to build it. And he basically, he takes 3 C stands pretty much and assembles, like robot assembles. And by the way, because I have my like background in robotics, like I can tell when something's structurally stable, right?
Right.
And he takes these like C stands and like shitty rigs together.
My God. Great start.
Yeah, basically, oh gosh, I don't know how to describe it. In the middle is the camera, right? And this is a big camera. And it's got a huge lens on it. And then out the sides are 2 C stands holding it together, and then 1 long rod in the middle holding the 2 C stands with the camera in the center. So it's like a triangle.
Oh, okay.
Basically.
Interesting.
And he basically goes, okay, so we're going to hold each end. So now 2 people are on opposing ends of the camera.
Okay.
So the 2 opposite ends of the triangle, and they go, we're going to throw the camera over the actors while they're in bed. So like
with the stand?
With the stand. So,
with the stand.
So 2 people on both sides, and like almost think like a jump rope, but like the camera's in the center.
Right. Okay.
Throw it over 2 actors who are laying on this bed.
Oh my God.
Over the 2 actors. And I said, I mean, at first I like laughed because I didn't think he was serious. And then I realized he was totally serious, and I was looking at the rig and I was like, no way we're going to put actors underneath this heavy camera. Because if they got hit with the stand or the camera, I mean, it'd be, lights out. Like it was crazy to me. And no, this guy he was dead serious.
Oh my God.
So I said, and I honestly, I maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I kind of wanted to like humor myself a little bit. I was like, okay, well, let me see a practice run of this, you know? So we like layered the whole like bed with like pillows and stuff in case the camera fell.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. And we no actors, of course. And I see
in case
him,
it fell. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I see him, and I think it was the gaffer on the other side, and they do like a practice run, and so they toss the camera over the bed, and they could barely hold it up themselves, and then they're like, and then we'll go back the other way, and they toss it again, and they're like throwing it, and it is just insane because they're just truly just throwing this camera, and they can barely hold it. And they're like, yeah, we're going to put the actors underneath. And I looked at the actors who happened to also be the producers. And
oh my God,
I was like,
what a dynamic.
If I highly recommend you don't do this.
Yeah.
Like, please don't do this. And I said, but if you do, I'm going to have to step off set. Like, I cannot be a part of this. Like, this is one of those things that I do have to walk from, because if they get injured and, you know, at the end of the day, who's going to be held accountable for that?
Right.
If someone gets impaled or injured. And so for me, I just, you know, I couldn't be a part of it. Yeah. And they did go through with it. And I heard the shot sucked.
They didn't even make it to the
surprise.
final cut, probably.
Yeah. But it's all good. I mean, for me, I've had a few situations where where either it was the DP, the actors, or the producers wanted to put actors or crew in harm's way to get a shot. And to me, it's like, it's not worth it.
It's never worth it.
And at the end of the day, it sucks because a lot of the times, like, I get really close with people and, you know, if I tell them, no, you can't do this or we shouldn't do this, and they still do it anyway, I have to go, okay, I hear you, and I'll respect your decision to go through with it, but I can't be a part of it. So I have to walk. And that is like the worst ever. But you know, it could be a temporary walk. It could be I will walk while you do this shot. And then when I come back, we'll continue forward. Like I didn't see that.
Oh my God.
But it, at the end of the day, it's who knows what could have happened. Yeah. You know, they live to tell the tale, but what if they didn't?
What if they didn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you live with that?
I can't.
On
Yeah,
you,
I
you know?
can't. Yeah. And as someone who really wants to get into stunt work, and when I see something that's unsafe, like I want to practice the saying no now. Like there's been so many things where I have to say no, and it sucks. You know, it doesn't feel good to say no.
Yeah.
Especially to somebody who's so excited, you know, and you just have to. You have to, because at the end of the day, if someone was to get hurt, then
whose fault is that?
Whose fault is it? The safety officer.
The safety officer. Who is that? I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you wanted to. Did I hear that wrong? You're interested into stunt?
In the what is it?
You're interested into stunt?
Stunts.
Stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Very interested. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, no, totally. I really love stunt work.
Wow. Okay.
I think stunt work is so cool. And on the previous productions that I've done this past year, there has been so much stunt work. Like I've seen people go through windows and like be smashed into mirrors and prop bottles be thrown at people's heads and motorcycle stunts and car stunts and prop weapons and samurai fights. And I mean, it's just, the list goes on. And for me, there's something so enthralling about working with a stunt coordinator. And I think it's just so fun and so cool. I think that passions obviously definitely came from watching the Tom Cruise movies with my dad. You know, I think that's just a memory that's instilled within me. And I think the fact that I get to make movies that are similar to that, maybe not as big as that, but similar in the way that, you know, we're fighting, we're kicking, we're doing all these cool things.
Yeah.
I just think it's so fun. Yeah. And I would like to do more of that. I think I could definitely see myself going into more action movies and action films where I get to do that every day and get to coordinate together with the stunt coordinator and make sure everything's safe. Because at the end of the day, that's important.
Have you seen Fall Guy?
I haven't. Oh my gosh, which is shocking too, because it's like on Amazon Prime, right?
I think
so? I literally, I just haven't gotten around to it, but I should. I need to watch it. Yeah.
So I want to switch gear a little bit to you being maybe not as an AD.
Okay.
Would you consider yourself as like a working director right now, or like where are you at with that?
It's interesting because like I have like, there was a time where I really thought that was like all I wanted to do, and then I realized how much I really liked being an AD.
So are you still like
the last thing I directed was this film called Born This Way, and that was like my thesis film for school. And since then I haven't directed anything, which is pretty weird to say out loud, because going into film school, I think I made like produced like 13 of my own films, threw them up on YouTube, and boom, entered them into contests and stuff. And like, it was really cool because the films that I had directed started getting like recognized through some really cool like studios and productions. And
it was on a magazine at one point.
It's like, honestly, it's really crazy. And I feel really grateful, but I think at the end of the day, it all boiled down to I wanted to make a positive impact on the world. And I still have that in me. Not to say that I will never direct again or anything like that. I think I've found this intense drive that is pushing me in the AD realm. But yeah, of course, I love to create. My word for this year is create. And that's like...
Totally Tati.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I wanna create. I wanna make things, and I want to put good in the world. I think the world needs it, and so yeah, of course. I think I will never stop wanting to direct, and I definitely could see that, you know, for a future self.
Yeah.
But at this moment, I feel super content helping make other people's dreams a reality.
Hell yeah, that's great.
But yeah, I'm definitely no stranger to directing.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm really excited for whatever you do creatively in the future as well.
Yeah.
But speaking of Born This Way, I would love to, you know, pick your brain about that a little bit, because as you said, it went crazy after it was released.
That was crazy.
It was on a magazine, was played in some selected theaters for a private screening.
Yeah.
So in Born This Way, which came out about 2 years ago at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
I know.
Because it was made like three years ago or something. And then like for it to release 2 years ago, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. But in that project, you talked about how it's not only about homophobia in churches. It's also about, I guess it's more so about treating people with kindness, with compassion. And what I found fascinating about this project is that it's kind of semi-autobiographical in a way to your own story, in the way that you did, you know, walk through a Christian youth camp with a flag on your back.
Yeah.
Or how you being a camp coordinator in Lake Tahoe was very rewarding for you, because a lot of campers were able to feel very comfortable around you.
Yeah.
And namely this trans kid who told you that they wanted to end their life at the time, and you feel like you had this need to save them, but you didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, something as serious as that to something as simple as standing up to a bully, like what you did in middle school.
Yeah.
So I was just really curious about how is it different for you when directing actors on such a personal level, where the story is like basically you? How is it different directing them as opposed to directing something that's not as personal?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to say, but I feel like everything I've directed is personal. Because, you know, in school I had a professor, her name's Sherry Hefner. Shout out Sherry. I love her. She told me there's gosh, I don't know how exactly she put it, but like there's nothing more beautiful than like sharing your story, and like sharing something the story that only you could tell.
Yeah.
And so I think having that like personal aspect is so important, especially when it comes to something you're directing, because if you're trying to describe something that you haven't experienced or been through, how are you supposed to do that, you know?
It's tough.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes the stories more realistic. When I directed Born This Way in particular, the actor and actress that were playing like the lead roles both had been through experiences that reflected the story quite a bit, and it's what brought them both to wanting to take the roles. And I thought it was super cool to not only have what I've experienced in my life, but also both of their perspectives as well. And I think at the end of the day, we made something that could be so personal because we were telling the truth in a way, even though it was a narrative story, and there's aspects of like whimsicalness and things that didn't actually happen. I think they were all pulling from facts and truth and lived experiences. So
well, it seems like because it's an all queer cast, right?
Yeah.
And at the premiere, they all kind of share their stories of how they connected to Born This Way.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting how the the pastor, the guy who played the pastor, he was like, I was on the flip side of my character. That like was really interesting to me.
Oh my gosh. That was really fun because that moment, it was like the whole audience went wild.
Yeah.
Because the guy who we had playing the pastor is totally gay, and like such a
He was
light,
so mean in the movie.
And in the movie he was really playing like the dark side of well, for me, at the time, Christianity, and it was like so interesting because for him even too, I was just talking about the lead cast, but for him in particular, his lived experience is he wanted to be a pastor, and all of that was kind of ripped away from him because he was queer. Wow. And so when he was playing that role, he was pulling from the people that treated him that way.
Damn.
And so that's why his character was so menacing, I'd say, because he was truly pulling from his life and like the parts that were ad-libbed and stuff. I mean, that's him. That's the truth of like what he heard, And I think, there's something super powerful about that. And it's interesting that he played such a polar opposite of himself. But I kind of love it too, because the cast were saying like, it's kind of freaky because when we talk to you, just have conversations with you, it's like totally chill. But then as soon as you start acting, it's like scary. Menacing pastor, So it's fun. I mean, the guy himself too is he's a good family friend of mine. I call him my gay dad. Like he's at every event. His name's Doyle. Shout out Doyle.
Shout out.
But he's like, oh gosh, I mean, he's like 6 foot something. Like he's super tall.
Yeah, hella tall.
Like he's looking down on you. So I could see how people, if they didn't know that he was gay, would be scared.
I remember at the premiere, I think it was what is it called? Full Spectrum.
Oh yeah.
When it was first premiere alongside with all the other senior film. I remember watching that and it was like, what a delightful film and what a important film too.
Thank you.
And I remember messaging you after that. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah. No,
Do you remember what I said?
I don't remember exactly what you said. What did you say?
I was asking you about what's up with the moth and the spider.
Oh yeah.
And then you told me that it's like it's supposed to be a metaphor for authority telling you what to do, kind of thing. Yeah. So looking back at Born This Way, this project, is there anything that you felt like you wish you would have done differently, or?
Oh yeah.
What are some of your thoughts looking back at it?
It's interesting. I've grown so much from that project. I think because it was so personal, it ended up going really viral. Like I started doing TikTok alongside while the film was being made, and there was a video I made and it had 8 million views, and
wow.
And it was about the project, and something that's so personal to me, and to hear everybody's opinion, whether it was good or bad, it was just, I think for me, I just grew like so much as a person. And at the time, I was very much still dealing with like religious trauma and trying to figure out who I was as a person, and just growing up, and to have something that I was still trying to figure out put on such like almost like a spectacle. It was really overwhelming, really, really overwhelming. But I think at the end of the day, I tried my best, right? And I feel so grateful because in the end, it touched so many people because it got the platform. The platform was there 100%. for the film.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I learned a lot, and there's definitely a lot of things I would do differently. I think some of the ways that the story was told, I could have done it better or done it differently, or, maybe the way that I allocated the budget. What if I applied to this film festival, or what if I, took it on this route, or what if I tried to use this for funding for a feature, there's definitely things that, I look back on and I think, if it went this way or that way. But at the end of the day, I'm just grateful that it happened, because it helped me realize who I was. And it was like, I had such growing pains from that film because I like grew and I had to grow up really fast because once the film released, or even before the film released, I started getting invited to go talk at schools about being queer and Christianity and like religious trauma. And I had this platform reach out to me, and they're like, we're going to have you do a seminar where you're going to speak for 20 minutes about this. And that is like terrifying, right? You know? And I'm like, I'm still not even sure how I feel about certain things. And I'm still navigating, you know, these things. Like, how am I supposed to go like teach or help people? Yeah, you know, and at the end of the day, what I figured out is just be authentic to you and like, you know, tell your truth. And as long as you're authentic, you did nothing wrong, you know? So, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it all happened so fast that I just like, I couldn't even, it was just insane.
But I think the fact that it was platformed in such a way just speaks to how, you know, how close people find themselves born this way in this project. And I've seen comments on, I think it was probably Born This Way trailer or or one that you posted on YouTube. Yeah. You know, there are just overwhelming comments of positivity and
which
people
is so
saying,
nice.
I know, and people saying that I wish I had seen this. Like this movie existed when I was a kid.
So cool.
You know, it was just, I mean, you must feel very proud of that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I definitely do. And I think that's why I hesitate on saying like, I don't like when you ask me about being a director and directing, because it was like my first love, and it's weird to kind of say past tense, and I don't want to say I'm not a director or that's not something I want to do. It's just kind of maybe on hold, I'd say a little bit. I think because I've found almost like I'm like really trying to go straight in line to go DGA, AD, and just like AD big stuff, you know? And so I think it's definitely something I'd be interested. I think it just might be just a little on pause.
Right. Bit. I mean, you still have that creative side of you.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I love to tell stories, you know, that's what I'm here to do. I might just, you know, be doing it on a more like logistical side right now, but I love to collaborate with directors, and I love to hear what makes them tick. And my favorite stories are the ones that are really personal to directors. And I've been hired onto projects where I was told like by the producers like that they wanted me specifically because they knew I'd be able to handle and like set the tone of the set, because the project is so personal or so like, you know, if it's a hard topic or if there's, you know, topics with like either, you know, rape, suicide, like et cetera, just really, really hard topics that I'd be the one to be able to set the tone and make sure that everybody's okay, everyone feels safe, and go from there.
So have you ever received any specific like stereotypes or expectations in the industry? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Oh gosh, so many.
Right.
Oh no, I don't even know where
to even start.
I know. Yeah. I mean, and I hate to say that because I wish it wasn't true.
Right.
And I almost want to say I'm just getting started, because I feel like, you know, I've really been doing this thing for 3 years, right? You know, and it's been hard. I have definitely had moments where, you know, it's just the way someone might look at you, and it's like, oh, did I do something? And it's like, oh, maybe they just have a problem with me, or something, where I've been like outright called out, where it's like I've had a director say, oh gosh, I don't even know how they said it, but we were kind of getting into a little bit of like an argument about something. And then he said, oh, well, how would you know? You're just a woman in film.
What?
And I like was so shocked. And I mean, I felt my blood just boil, you know, to the tip point. And I literally, I mean, I had to hold my tongue. I was like, I'm just a woman in film, you know? And I've had directors like say, well, think like a filmmaker, like just think like a filmmaker, like I'm stupid,
Right.
you know? And I'm like, okay, like what?
My God.
You know? Yeah. And I had someone, I mean, I feel like there's just so many things like that. Yeah, where I'd seen people who had, there was a company I was working for, which I don't want to say which one. But I was working there for almost a year and kind of off and on. And I was just, you know, PAing, and the producer kept saying, oh, you know, I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to have you AD. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. So I was always giving it my 100%. And some of the other guys, which by the way, I was the only girl on this team of 10 people. And this is for a pretty big company. So that's why I'm kind of like about it. But I was the only girl, and there's like 10 other people, all dudes. And these guys who like truly weren't even trying, or like would just sit around on their phone, were getting like promoted and like promoted and promoted. And, you know, I was there for almost a year, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, he keeps saying he's going to promote me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like their token queer female person, you know, Latina, right? And I'm like, oh man, this sucks, you know, because I'm just in this room surrounded by white men. Right. And I'm like giving it everything, you know, everything. And it was like, no matter how hard I tried or worked, it was like, I don't see you, you know, and that was the messaging. And, you know, it was like, I literally think I've had these conversations like with my parents before about it, but it's like, man, if I was like a white dude, like, would I have been promoted? Would I be the head of the company now? You know? Yeah. And it just stinks because I gave it my best. And then eventually one day they just never brought me back. And it was like out of nowhere too. It wasn't like I did anything wrong, you know? And I just was like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's it. And you know, I think to myself, oh, why would I want to work for these people? Yeah. Even though, it was a very credible company. It was like, oh man, like the sexism was so there, you know, so there. Right. Like there's so many examples. I just like, I just can't share it because they're just so bad, you know? Like, I think I try to just kind of let it roll off my shoulders, you know?
I think everyone has heard of these stories left and right so many freaking times. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes it's so absurd that it's hard to believe.
Oh, totally.
But it does happen, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, where is it even coming from? Like, you're just a woman in film. Like, what does that even mean?
Right? I know. And the thing too is it's also how you interpret it too. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, wait, like, did you mean it in the way you said it? Or like, did you mean it? Like, how else could you mean it though? Right? How else could you mean it? And it was like in front of a group of 40 people of cast and crew. And I was so like, whoa, where did that come from?
That goes beyond like unprofessional.
Oh my gosh.
That goes beyond that. It's like, it's within the character.
Yeah. You know? And it's like, how am I supposed to help you? Because as the AD, like, I'm there to be the director's advocate and help you succeed. I'm like, how am I supposed to help you now? You know? So it's just such like, ugh. Have you experienced that like on set where someone just like was treating you bad, or like?
I mean, treating me bad. I've had a lot of, I wouldn't say actively bad. I've had people who just ignore me. Like, just don't listen to me. I'm like, bro, same team here. Like, I'm trying to help you. Right? But I've seen my colleagues where they are treated badly. I probably shouldn't get into the nitty gritty, but
sure.
You know, there are certain departments who are typically predominantly women. Sure. And those are the department that gets the worst part of it, you know? Yeah. And speaking of that, I just would also want to ask you, so what do we do about it? So how do we support women in film, or how do we, any action that we can do to make this better, or to, eradicate this kind of behavior entirely in the future.
Yeah. I mean, is it silly to say what you're doing right now is giving me a platform to talk and be like, hey, I'm a female AD. Hell yeah. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
You know,
Hell yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think making sure our voices are heard, maybe like if you're on a set where you see like, oh, you know, like maybe if there are more men than women, it's like, oh, you know, like maybe next time, you know, if you're working with the same producers or something like that, like maybe I'm going to recommend these like great female leaders who I know would be great as, whether it's, you know, a DP or gaffer, things like that. I'd also just say like giving women a platform to be heard and be seen, I think is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I was also thinking about how a lot of directors are comfortable with you being on set and working with them because the energy that you give off, because that you make them feel comfortable around you, because you have this compassion in you. And it just makes me think of that time where you, I think it was 2023 at Long Beach Playhouse, where you shared this story about your sister, 13-year-old sister, outing you while she was pulling bubblegum out of her butt. Yeah.
Oh,
and she basically forced you out of the closet and that whole story.
Yeah.
And so going through a world that is tough as this one, when looking at the grand scheme of things, what role do you want to ultimately play, either now or in the future, you know, personally, professionally, artistically?
That's a good question. Okay. Oh man. Yeah. Man, that like stumps me. I think like for me, at the end of the day, I always want to put light into the world. I always want to put good into the world. I want when people step onto set to feel good, to feel at the end of the day just seen, you know? And I think a lot of us go through life feeling pretty lonely. And I know I've had at times, you know, I've felt really lonely. I mean, I was the biggest dork ever, you know, growing up. Like I was bullied, I was outcasted. Like for me, I think I went through a lot of my early stages of life not feeling seen outside of, you know, my family. Thank goodness. I mean, they were amazing. Yeah. I love them so much. But, you know, just like at school and like kind of in sports and stuff. I mean, I just like, I didn't feel that. Like when I step onto set, you know, I want to know everybody's name. I want to know why everybody's there, what makes them tick. And I think just making others feel seen and feel heard and feel appreciated is the kind of person I want to be. And I'm not sure exactly what word that would be, but yeah, I definitely would say I want to put more light into the world and
100%.
You know, do that artistically, do that through my job and through my personal life. Yeah. And with everybody I meet, you know, I always want to put the good in the world.
Oh yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we're nearing the end of our episode.
Nice.
Lightning round?
Okay, lightning. Oh gosh.
Do you want to do a lightning round with me?
Sure. How does lightning round work? It sounds so like scary, you know? It sounds quick.
It's it is quick.
Okay.
So I don't want you to think too much on each stuff. But I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of random questions.
Sick.
And whatever comes to your mind, say it.
Is it like quick one word answer kind of thing?
It doesn't have to be one word.
Okay. Just whatever pops in.
Just a quick answer or something.
I got you.
All right, ready?
I'm ready. Oh God.
How are you feeling so far?
I'm good.
Great?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Who's your hairstyle inspiration?
Ooh, hairstyle inspiration. Oh my gosh. I'd say Link from Rhett and Link.
Shout out to Link.
Good morning.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I had the skunk stripe going for a moment too, but my hair grows too fast.
His hair is big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. He had cool hair or has cool hair.
I wish I had hair like that. Best and worst thing about being a first AD?
Ooh. Best thing is all the people, all the exciting, cool personalities that I get to work with. Worst thing is, I'd say, hard conversations. I always feel like a little like, ooh, when I have to have a hard conversation. But once you have it, it's all uphill from there.
Biggest pet peeve on set?
Pet peeve. Ooh, unprofessionalism.
Unprofessionalism.
Yeah, definitely a peeve. Yeah.
Is AD a proper name for the job?
Yes.
I'm curious about this.
It's funny because I told this woman I was working for, who is a production coordinator who works for Netflix, and she said, I said, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, assistant director. And then she went, actually, it's AD, like corrected me.
So you can't say AD?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, it was just kind of one of those things where, to me, it's like tomato. I mean, I've listened to a lot of, I love podcasts and I love like YouTube and stuff. Yeah, it was so exciting. But like, I listened to so many, and every time I listen to an assistant director, they say one or the other. They say AD, assistant director. It's kind of tomato. But some people are very passionate about it. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, okay, yes, ma'am. Like AD, yeah, Well, at least when I was working with her. But, I like assistant director because I think if you just say AD, people might not know what that means if they're not like filmmakers. But I think filmmakers, I just go, hey, I'm the first AD, and they go, oh, I know who you are, right? You know?
But I feel like for people who are not in film, and when you say you're assistant director, what the hell does that even mean? Like, does that mean that when director is sick, you just fill in for them?
There's also that too. Yeah, I think it's always fun to explain what my job is. I pretty much always just tell people that I'm narrating everything, and that I am the director is the creative side, and I am the logic side of the brain. So
hell yeah.
So think director, but like logic side. I'm just game planning everything.
That's a great way of describing that.
Yeah.
Huh. Director, but logical.
It's the simplest way to put it, I think. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of your set essentials?
Set essentials. Ooh, like what I bring to set?
Yes.
iPad. God, I'm such an iPad kid. iPad for sure. Apple Watch. Yeah. iPad, Apple Watch. That's all I need. I'm pretty dandy.
Good. If your life was a film, what would be the title and who would play you?
Oh my goodness. If my life was a movie? This is a good one. Oh gosh. See, now this is lightning round, but now I'm like spiraling.
No, with the magic of editing,
I know, right?
You answer right away.
That's right. I do. Oh, I know. It's my tattoo. It's grit. It'd be called Grit.
Grit.
Yeah.
Who would play you?
Who would play me?
Cast yourself.
Ooh, and I can choose anybody.
Anyone, dead or alive.
Oh my gosh. Oh, why can't I think of her name? I'm picturing Winona Ryder.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just because I like her so much. I think she's amazing.
Which is great because that's literally my next question.
Ooh.
How much has Tim Burton shaped your approach to art?
All of it. How much? On a scale to 1 to the moon.
Wow.
I think it opened my eyes so much because as someone who is so outcasted in general and like in life, I think I found such a profound connection to his movies and his work that once I saw what he could do, I thought, oh man, like this has opened my eyes to kind of more abstract art in a way, where art that makes you kind of think and that can be a little whimsical and that can be comedical. So I'd say a lot. Yeah.
Okay. One of your favorite films and why?
Favorite films.
Just pick one.
Gosh, I'd say, I know, only one. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is so good. I'd say that movie, after I left the theater, I just like sat and like looked at the ground for a long time. And I just think it was just so cool that like the whole message was that nothing matters and just that everyone's lost in the world and just at the end of the day, be kind, you know? and we'll figure it out, you know? And I think that was something I really needed to hear at the time. So it's kind of left that impression on me.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah.
One of your favorite filmmakers. It doesn't have to be a director.
Ooh, favorite filmmakers. Doesn't have to be a director. Ooh. Well, we already said Tim Burton.
Oh, yeah. And you said,
Can I
Tom
say
Cruise.
Tim Burton?
Tim Burton. Yeah, you can say Tim Burton. Okay. So this is kind of more of a request. All right. In the queer room, you and Gio invented a queer room handshake.
Oh.
So can we invent a craft service table handshake right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay.
What do you suggest?
Craft service. Let me think. I'm trying to think of like a motion that I do when I go to pick up like a crafty item.
So I'll be the
Yeah, maybe you could be the table and I could be the hand grabbing the snack, you know?
So how
maybe
does
you
table
could
like
put your hands together like flat, like
Okay.
a table.
So
And then maybe I can go to like grab something off the table.
yeah, let's do it.
And then maybe like maybe I could do almost like a psych where I like go to grab something and then I go like psych and then I could snap and then you could snap back. Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's do that.
So
Okay,
it's
so
like-
I'm holding both of my hands flat.
And then I'm going to go grab to pretend like I'm grabbing something off the table and then we go back, snap. And then
do we say something?
Yeah.
Got you.
That's right.
That's right. That's a great handshake. We have to. I'm gonna quiz you on that 1 year from now.
Oh my
See if you
gosh.
remember that.
That's going to be really hard. We'll see.
Biggest fear.
Oh, water. Ooh, well, not water actually. I love water. No, but drowning, I'd say.
Drowning.
It scares me. It freaks me out. Yeah.
Are tennis balls green or yellow?
Ooh, green. Yeah.
They're indeed green. Okay, last question. Favorite podcast and why is it this one?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Favorite podcast. I'd say ASAP Science. I really like ASAP Science a lot because it's too like this, it's a gay couple and they're both scientists and I don't know exactly their background, but they definitely come from the world of science and they pick a topic and they talk about it. And it is always a very interesting conversation. So ASAP Science, very good stuff.
I would also recommend Star Talk. I don't know if you heard of that
Star
one.
Talk. Ooh.
By Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, okay.
He has a pretty good podcast about quantum physics and astrophysics and all that stuff. So
I love science, so let's do it. Yeah.
Nerd.
I know.
Nerd
it's
alert.
True.
Oh yeah. So that's the end of our episode. Any last words? Any recommendations? Anything you've done? Anything you've heard? Anything you've seen that you want to recommend to our fellow listeners?
I'd say that always be authentically you, and yeah, I think just be authentically you. And if you really want to get into film, or you have a goal that if you go after it and you go after it as hard as like wanting to breathe air, you'll find your way there. And yeah, do everything with passion. There you go.
Great. Wow. Well, thank you for that. That was beautiful, and thank you for hopping on the craft service table. It was a very insightful episode. I had a great time talking to you. I wish we had more time because I feel like there's so much to talk about.
We could go on and on.
We could go on and on, but maybe we'll have another episode. We can continue this conversation.
Awesome.
So yeah, anything you want to plug? Anything, final words?
Well, first, thank you for having me.
Of course,
I think you're an amazing human, and I really so appreciate being here and like everything you've said, and you're very well researched. So thank you for all of this, and you're even reminding me of my own like story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right, I did do that, and this happened, and so I so appreciate you. Plug, if you want to see my AD YouTube channel. It's going to be called Totally Tati. The page is already up. I already have a video out, kind of on the low, but like it's true. It is there. And I'm going to put out a vlog about one of the harder sets that I've worked on. But it's pretty cool because I really deep dive into how I handle problems on set and what it's like to be an AD. So if you want to check that out, other than that, I'm on Instagram, Tatiana_films, and there you go.
Oh yeah, I would definitely check your YouTube channel out. I'm super excited. Yeah, great. So, all right, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and see you on the next one. I don't have an outro, but bye.
Bye.
Bye. Peace. Yay.
That was awesome. Hello.
Okay, let's do a comment mark.
Okay.
Comment mark? Are you ready?
So.
How do you feel?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
You seem very chill.
I mean, I don't know. I'm happy. I like, I think this is fun. Pretty open.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. You ready?
Yes.